Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us again today. Well, I've had a few requests by some viewers to review this pistol, the Glock 45. And my response to some of these inquiries was, I've kind of already covered this pistol already, and if you want to know what I'm talking about, stay with me, because I'm going to tell you in just a minute. Alright, once again, welcome back. Thanks for being with us today. If this is your first time coming to the channel, or if you've watched our videos before and just have not had the chance to before now, and you like our content, please consider subscribing. You can do that by either locating the subscribe button in the lower right hand corner of your computer screen there, or if you're on a mobile device, you can just scroll down below the video and hit subscribe that way. It's a simple thing that helps us out a whole lot, and we really appreciate it. So, I mentioned that I've seen this before somewhere, and you know, if you keep up with Glock, you probably already know where I'm going with this. But I did a video quite a while back on a pistol that has a lot of similarities to this one. And that is known as the Glock 19X. And basically all we're really talking about here is we're talking about this sort of combination of the Glock 19, the smaller slide along with the larger grip that you get on the 17, which is exactly what you've got going on here. Now, they are just slightly different. When I say they're different, as far as the barrel length, the overall length, the overall height, identical. The 45 is a millimeter wider than the Glock 19X, and there's some very slight differences in weight by gram, but this is also, by the way, the MOS version here, so you can, of course, put your optics on this. So, I think the idea behind this, obviously, when the 19X came out, obviously Glock was going for the military contract. They didn't get it, but, you know, the 19X was what they came up with, trying to be the new sidearm for the military, which ended up going to SIG. So obviously everything from the coloring, the fact that it comes with, you know, the night sights, it's got special coating on the parts, you get your little lanyard loop. All these kinds of things were done to make this a good pistol for that kind of purpose. And of course, if you're going to sell that same gun for just the general civilian market, obviously kind of doing a few modern upgrades, maybe changing a couple little things up with the pistol might make it better for general use. And we'll get to some of those details here in a minute, but we always like, of course, to do our direct comparison, and since these two are virtually identical, you know, there's not much I have to do here. You can see that these are the exact same thing. I mean, the differences in these two are just barely discernible at all. And so, if you've got any experience with the 19X, you already know exactly what it's going to be like to carry this one. For that matter, if you've carried a Glock 19 or Glock 17, you already know, the size and weight of the 19, and this is just a combination of that compact slide with the full-size grip of the 17. So we're going to jump right into the features here, but before we do, we're going to take just a moment and thank our friends over at Don's Weaponry for providing us this beautiful example of the Glock 45 MOS for our tabletop review today. Don's Weaponry is a huge supporter of firearm safety and education, and we can't thank them enough. So we're going to do a quick safety check here. You can see that our magazine is empty. You can see that our chamber is empty, and we are safe and good to go. Now, if you've got any experience with Glock whatsoever, this is pretty standard fare. There's nothing really new and exciting on this particular handgun compared to other Glocks. All the modern, Glocks that you're looking at now, the modern generations, have got the front and the rear serrations. Of course, it comes standard with the little plastic white dot U-channel sight. Your big difference with the 19X, of course, is that it has night sights. Now, of course, you can simply put night sights on this just like you could any other Glock, but that's just one of the things I'm pointing out. And of course, you've got your optics mounting plate here, so if you want to put red dot on there, you can do it. That's the whole idea. Of course, your slide lock and release here, standard. And of course, it is ambidextrous. You've got your trigger, and this is a standard Glock trigger. The 19X and the 45 had the exact same trigger pull, and if you've shot any of the modern Glocks, they all feel about the same. I'll cover this more in the range section. And of course, your magazine release, standard Glock mag release. There's nothing fancy here. And of course, you've got your typical, you got the Glock little square pattern here that goes on the side. Of course, you do have the different back straps that you can change out to if you want to have this to be a bigger grip than what you have right there, and that's pretty standard with your Glocks as well. They do give you 3 magazines, which I do like. Anytime, you buy a firearm like this and they get stingy on the magazines, that's always an issue for me. Of course, you got your small rail cutout here on the front, so there's a limited number of accessories that will fit on this, but there are some things that you can get. And, it's a typical Glock. There's nothing really new, exciting, or fancy. There is one thing a little bit different on the grip, and you may look here, you can see, if you look just right, I'm going to turn it, you can see the mag well is flared on this. And there are many people who believe that that little bit of flaring makes it easier to get your magazines in and out. Personally, I've never had any trouble getting my magazines in and out of any Glock. But that's going to be your summary of features on the Glock 45, and that, just like any other Glock, pretty much, that you ever look at. So talking about the range, I'm not going to get into too much as far as the range on this, because this gun, as I said, I've got a whole video on the Glock 19X where I go into all kinds of detail about how well that gun shoots. And it's the exact same thing. I mean, literally, your trigger pull and your trigger distance, everything is exactly the same, and the gun is the same. So the range shooting on this, I'll just summarize by saying that, like all Glocks that I've shot, I think the exception of maybe one. I think one of my 10mm Glocks was a little finicky on ammo one time, but that's the only one. But every other Glock I've ever had in my hands, especially all the ones that are 9mm, have been very easy to shoot. They're not picky about ammo. It doesn't matter what I stick in, and I can have reloads, garbage ammo. It doesn't matter. They do a good job. This is the same way. It's very accurate, right out of the box with no preparation at all. Shooting typical nice little group. And I think that the one good thing about this, like I said, when this first came out, when I looked at the 19X, when I reviewed it, I didn't see what the big deal was, because I never had trouble shooting the Glock 19 well. And the smaller grip on the 19 to me makes it a little bit easier to conceal. But the larger grip on both the 19X and on the 45, I have to admit, it is a little easier. It's a little bit more stable. And I guess it's worth maybe having to manage the larger grip. But as far as I'm concerned, you're just as well off with like a Glock 19 for something like this. It's a good shooting gun, but to me it doesn't have a real purpose in my collection when I have other things that do a good job. So, range report, identical to the Glock 19X, good shooting gun, and I like it. So what's it like to carry the Glock 45? Well, as I said, to me, this is close enough to a Glock 19, and I mentioned this in my Glock 19X video. This is close enough to a Glock 19. It doesn't really feel that much different to me. Now, this is the size firearm where I'm definitely not going to use like a single clip holster, and I'm not going to use anything like a sticky, something that, is more a pocket carry type holster. I've got a lot of these, like this is a crossbreed Super Tuck. I've got many of these. You've got 2 clips, and you've got Kydex and leather, and it's just really, really comfortable. Something like this will manage the size and weight of the firearm quite well, and it's very secure. The Kydex has got a little bit of retention there, so I think something like this is perfectly acceptable. And of course, there are tons and tons of other holsters that'll work in this kind of situation. But as long as you got something that distributes the weight pretty well, and that's one reason I like those crossbreeds, is because, you know, you've got the weight of this spread out over 2 clips in a large area. It's very comfortable, and I could carry something like that all day long. Now, I tend to carry a little bit smaller gun on me anyway, as it seems like the older I get and the further I go in my carry journey, the smaller I like my carry guns to be. But I could still carry this very comfortably, just like I could a Glock 19 or something the same size. So I think it's very realistic this could be a good carry gun. Overall impressions of the Glock 45. Well, once again, to me, this is just a slightly different Glock 19X. And Glock 19X is a gun that I bought and I left in my safe forever, and I just didn't really have a lot of interest in it. And one day I got out and shot it, and I did realize that, well, with the bigger grip, it does make for a very stable shooting handgun. And the grip, you know, when you think about carrying something in the holster, obviously the grip is going to be a concern because this is the part that sticks up the furthest. It's going to cause you the most discomfort. And so even though I can easily carry something like this, if I had my choice, I think I'd still carry a Glock 19 just because, you know, I'm going for the smallest, most comfortable thing that I can get. Now, as far as a home defense gun, or just to go out and shoot and have fun, or if I'm on my property and I want a gun, a sidearm, it's great. I think the larger grip actually does relate to tangible results as far as how well you can shoot this gun. But to me, it's just not worth it at the cost of comfort, because one thing I'll tell you over and over again, if you have any kind of gun that you're looking at for concealed carry and it's not comfortable, you're going to end up leaving it at home. And so comfort has to be at the top of the list when you're considering these type of choices. And for me, something a little bit smaller is a little more comfortable. But it's a great choice. You can do it really easily with a good holster. And of course, MSRP on these things, you know, well, what I actually see them in a store would be better, you know, anywhere from like $530 to $550, depends on who's selling them and whether they're trying to mark them up. It's typical cost for what you see for a compact size Glock. So they're not the cheapest guns, but they're certainly not the most expensive. And of course, you get Glock reliability. And as far as their 9mm handguns, I've never had any issues or failures whatsoever. As I said, the only failure I've ever had at all, I had a 10mm that was a little finicky at one time. But that was the only Glock I've ever owned that wasn't just absolutely perfect every time I pick it up to shoot. So I think that it makes sense for the money. It's a good shooting gun. It's a good choice for somebody. And of course, you want to upgrade the sights, you can do that pretty cheap. Other than that, it pretty much has everything you need right out of the box. So no reason not to carry it if you like a larger gun. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. We appreciate you being with us as always. Back very soon with another video for you. So until that time, everybody stay safe and have a great day. Thank you.